Hey, ladies and gents, and welcome to episode 47 of the Controlled Interest Gamecast, where we talk about video games and everything happening in the industry. I'm joined by Dom. How's it going, Dom?
Go blue.
Go Blue. So Jordan's not going to be able to be with us this week, so two-man podcast. Let's get into what we've been playing. Pretty light week for me. I can finally talk about it. I've been playing Sniper Elite 4. We talked about this a little bit before the show started, Dom. It's good. It's as close to being a AAA game as you can be with still not having like all of that polish. It's fun. It offers big open areas you can kind of tackle at your own discretion, and you can completely pass up on a bunch of optional objectives and side missions in favor of just killing the primary target, or you can go around and complete all of those little objectives. The stealth in it's really good. The big mechanic that Sniper Elite's known for, which is when you shoot somebody, you get like an X-ray slow motion kind of shot and you see what exactly you hit, is really good. I was under the impression that it was going to become very tedious and annoying because it happens over and over again, but it actually doesn't happen every kill, and it kind of it waits to do it for the really cool shots, if that makes sense. I think the HUD...
So there's not like some kind of meter that fills up and then it happens. It's just sort of, it knows when it's going to be extra cool and then it decides to go extra on.
Yeah. Which I'm cool with. Like there's the thing where you can activate it yourself, which would be a cool mechanic, where if you think about that, or the meter, but that I was worried that since it just happens automatically that it was going to become like tedious, and it isn't really tedious. I actually like it every time it pops up. It's really cool. You get really cool I wouldn't say rewards, but whenever you kill somebody, it tells you the type of kill it was, and then you get a bunch of bonuses, multipliers for points, which then you can use for your setup of like your guns and your grenades and stuff like that. At the beginning of the game, before you even start the game, it lets you set up your loadout. So I think the big thing with this game, I haven't finished it yet, but it seems like the big thing with this game is that you can go into the story with different loadouts. It's kind of funny. It reminds me a lot of the way Hitman rolled out episodically, where there was a map and you could go in and work on it however you wanted, and then you can jump in with different loadouts of guns and stuff like that, or tools at your disposal. Obviously this is one main game. Sniper Elite 4, the guys at Rebellion wanted this to be their big game, kind of like their coming out party for Sniper Elite, and I think it's a good game. I don't think it's bad by any means. I don't know if it's worth getting for $60 right off the bat. But it is fun, and it is a really solid shooter early in the year where we normally have to wait till the fall to get them. So if you're able to get this on like sale and stuff, I definitely recommend it. I'm going to have a review going up in the next week or so. But yeah, so far having a good time with it. It's not quite at the level I would expect it to be for, I always have felt that this game was going to be their coming out party, and it's just like it's almost there. Like it's not a bad game by any means. It's really well done, but it just doesn't have that final bit of polish that I think it could definitely use. And plus, like, it's hard to get over like the Sniper Elite name. It's kind of generic. The lead character is kind of cool. He reminds me of BJ Blazkowicz from Wolfenstein a little bit, but he doesn't have a lot of that charm or personality really. But yeah, I think Sniper Elite 4 is a pretty good game. The other thing I've been playing quite a bit is Fire Emblem Heroes. I was going to say Fable Heroes again. Yeah, I've been playing through that too. They recently updated it with some more content, some new heroes you can get into. They added a new paralogue, which is a new little story that you can play through. So they're updating it with content, which I really enjoy, having fun with that. Upgrading guys. Last time I talked about it, that I had my archer in my main squad was not great. He was only a level 2 hero, and my other guys are level 4s. Still haven't pulled the level 5. Haven't had that luck. So I ended up pulling a 4-star archer, Gordon, and I've been leveling him up, so now I have my squad all in the 30s, the low 30s, and then I have a second squad that's in like the mid 20s, and a couple of other squads that I'm also leveling up. But the game's just fun to do when you're like listening to a podcast, or you're waiting for something, or it's just like it's why people mostly play these cell phone or smartphone mobile games, is just to pass time, and yeah, having fun with it. So what have you been playing?
So I dabbled in some more Fire Emblem Heroes as well. Not nearly as much as that first week when it was out, but it's fine. I mean, my thoughts on it really haven't changed. It's good, but it's still a fun game. Other than that, I finished up Child of Light. and actually got every single trophy. No platinum, but at least I was able to 100% the game.
I 100%ed it too. That's awesome. So we both have it. It sucks it doesn't have a platinum though. It's so weird.
It is weird. Because they could have, all the trophies were really easy to get. They could have very easily added in a couple, tougher ones, and that would justify a platinum to me, like without a doubt. But as it is, I mean, some of the trophies are so easy that I get why, there's no platinum as it is. But still weird. Really good game though. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, but difficulty doesn't always mean platinum or not. I mean, that Mayo game has a platinum, and you just tap.
The standards of what gets and what doesn't get a platinum are horrendously inconsistent.
Does not make any sense. Yeah,
it's an issue. And Sony just needs to put Colin and Greg as the SARS of trophies at the PlayStation. But we'll see when that happens. Other than that, I put a whole lot more time into Bloodborne. Went back to it after, I think it's been like never mind. Since the DLC that I just played 2 months ago, it had been like a year and a half. But I was so close. I was like 70% through all the trophies. So I really want to go back and get that platinum, since that's a game I adore so much, and I've nearly beaten every single bit of it. I just want to have that, that like sense of completion over it.
That stamp of approval, yeah.
And oh man, it's a tough one to get. Those chalice dungeons. Whew. But I'm determined. I'm motivated now, and it's going to happen. It's not going to take too much more time, hopefully, because now all I have to really do right now is get through the last 2 chalice dungeons, which are really short, except for their difficulty is insane, right? So you're going to probably be fighting the same boss over and over for hours, so that accumulates time pretty quickly. But
would you say it's easier than a Souls plat? Because the Souls plats are pretty difficult. It's not some. I guess if you're into Souls, they're not that difficult, but it's like a lot of time investment, right? Because you have to like replay through it multiple times, like upwards of 7-8 times.
The Souls ones are, I think, less difficult, but probably more time consuming because a lot of those things, like you can only get that item once in a playthrough, so you have to do several playthroughs to get certain rocks to upgrade your weapons or whatever it is. The first one was especially bad about that. The second Dark Souls was actually the reverse. That was just super easy. That was one of the other few games I've 100%ed. The third I'm not too sure about. But yeah, Bloodborne, the platinum is just like insanely difficult. The chalice dungeons that you have to go through just get ridiculous.
They get harder and harder, to pull out your hair.
That's all I've been playing.
It's so weird that Child of Light does not have a platinum. That's one of the benefits of Xbox over PlayStation. We talked about this numerous times, but like everything has 1,000 points now, so nothing doesn't.
Right.
And it sucks for people who are invested in PlayStation that like, I want to get a platinum for this game because I love it. Oh wait, for some reason, for some arbitrary reason, this game doesn't have a plat, but this other one does. It's just really inconsistent. It's really weird. I don't get it.
It's very weird.
And I think saying you platinum something is way more concise and easier and cooler than saying I 100%ed something, because that can mean something completely different, or I completed something. It's a lot easier off the tongue too than saying I 1,000 pointed something or something. I think there needs to be a better phrase for Xbox. I like the idea of saying I platinumed this, but it's weird how inconsistent it is. It bothers me. And my OCD would go crazy with that stuff. So that's pretty much everything we've been playing this week. A nice hefty roundabout group of games. Let's get into the news. So the first bit of news here comes by way of Gamasutra. Resident Evil 7 surpasses 3 million sales in under 3 weeks, which is pretty huge. Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, the latest entry in Capcom's long-running horror franchise, has surpassed 3 million sales worldwide. The Japanese publisher broke the news in a short press release and explained those sales were racked up across all platforms: PS4, Xbox One, and Windows PC. For added context, it's worth remembering that the game launched just under 3 weeks ago. In its latest financial report, Capcom revealed that both sales and profits are down and said it was banking on blockbuster titles like Resident Evil 7 to deliver the goods as we head toward the end of this fiscal year. This is huge. The fact that they've sold 3 million units in under 3 weeks, or just about 3 weeks, is crazy for a franchise that was as dormant as Resident Evil was. And a lot of people were worried that this wasn't going to sell those numbers because it doesn't look like your traditional Resident Evil 7. The thing I think a lot of people lost in that is that with the success of Outlast through streamers and YouTubers, Outlast and Five Nights at Freddy's, I think we're entering this phase where horror games can succeed in a way they never were able to. It was more of a niche genre, and now it's a major genre for streamers, for YouTubers. People like to watch other people play scary games. People like to play scary games themselves now, to a more popular demand. And I think this also has to do with the stale like horror movie market right now, where there's not a lot of horror movies coming out, and the ones that come out are kind of B tier and C tier. And
we've been getting some of the greatest horror movies recently. The Conjuring. Ugh.
I don't know. Well, I guess The Conjuring's okay, but there was like all the Paranormal Activity movies and stuff like that. I don't know.
Yeah, those were lame.
Yeah. Plus, like the emergence of like VR, this thing basically sold VR to a lot of people. Like, you know, this is an immersive experience, and it turned off VR to a lot of people too because they didn't want to play this in VR games as spooky as this. Are these sales numbers surprising to you, considering Resident Evil 7? You know, we weren't expecting this kind of.
I mean, it depends. It sounds really good. I'd be curious to see how that compares to RE5 and 6, though.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's well above that. Obviously, those games have been out for longer, but if you were to take, you know, the first 3 weeks for each of them, I'd be curious to see how they stack up. My worry is that 5 and 6 sold way better, and that would send a message like, well, maybe we should have just kept to that same formula. Hopefully that's not how it goes, because those games were... I only played 5, and I watched a little bit of 6, and it was just utter trash. I mean, for a Resident Evil game at least. But yeah, I think 3 million sounds pretty good in 3 weeks. In January, in January and February, that seemed like real solid numbers.
Yeah, I think it's crazy too, because this is, I think to a lot of people, this is the way to re-energize like a dormant franchise. Like, people want Castlevania to come back, people want Metroid to come back, and I think a lot of people can look at this and be like, well, this is how you make a game that caters to a modern audience but still has a lot of Resident Evil in it. A lot of people were worried that because it was in first person, it wasn't going to be a Resident Evil game. The moment you see that game played with the puzzles and the mechanics and the inventory and all that, it's a Resident Evil game. At its core, it is a Resident Evil game. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people were happy with. Because on the surface, you weren't sure, right? It's kind of like the 5 and 6 thing, where you're veering off of what Resident Evil is this veering off too, just in a different direction. And I think this actually catered more towards 1 through 4, and definitely felt like a Resident Evil game to a lot of people. So I'm interested too. Maybe we can look that up later after the show, or we can just we'll probably hear numbers anyways, comparing it to 5 and 6. And see how this does. For 3 million in the first 3 weeks, I think that's good. You could also see really good sales spikes depending on how they market. We have the rest of the year, you know, and like Halloween, this could be a big game if they market it right and stuff like that. So I'm pretty interested. Also, we're gonna have Outlast 2 that's also coming out this year. So maybe if people play Outlast 2 and then they're like, oh yeah, Resident Evil came out, and the people who didn't jump on board will then jump on board with Resident Evil. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting how the rest of the year plays out, but it's good to see that franchise return to good numbers, or at least what we think are good numbers. Like you pointed out, we don't know. The next story here actually also has to do with Capcom. This comes by way of IGN. Alex Osborne writes, Capcom files second trademark for Deep Down. A second trademark for Capcom's long-time coming action role-playing game Deep Down has been filed. First spotted by Gamatsu, the trademark was filed on February 9th. As noted by NeoGAF user Philippe MGM, this is now the second active trademark for the game, as the one Capcom filed in 2013 is still valid. Deep Down was revealed at a PlayStation meeting in February of 2013. This was the unveiling of the PS4, the event which Sony pulled back the curtain on the PlayStation 4. The game was announced as a PS4 exclusive, developed using Capcom's new Panta Ray game engine. Details have been few and far between since its original debut, with producer Yoshinori Ono providing a status update back in 2015, confirming the game is still in development but will likely look quite a bit different than the prior footage that we had seen. We're thinking about showing something that looks completely different from what previously shown, although it might be a while from now, he said. Perhaps E3 is the time? So, yeah, it's interesting that they would file the second trademark now. Do you think that this is something that we're going to be seeing at E3 for PlayStation's conference, or do you think this is something that is something that's set in motion for maybe an E3 a year from now or 2 years from now?
Who the fuck knows? I mean, if you had asked me 2 days ago that question, I'd say this game has been canceled for a while. But now it just muddles it. 'Cause I have no idea. Are they just doing this kind of as a, well, it's still kicking around and we just want to keep an eye on it and make sure no one else, abs it up or something? Or has this, maybe gotten reworked, or they've been hard at it and like this is about to come out in fall 2017 and just blow us all away? I don't know anymore.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Me neither. The game looked really cool though. It looked very Soulsy. I also said I think it reminded me a lot of Dragon's Dogma 2. This is interesting because like we just read the story about Capcom's Resident Evil 7 sales, and they're trying to push hard for the end of their fiscal year, which is in March. I wonder what approach they take with this, because people don't really realize how short we had for Resident Evil 7 from reveal to release. Like, they announced Resident Evil 7, people are like, oh, it's coming back, and then we had the beginning hour demo, and then it was out in February, or January, sorry, at the end of January, and it was a really fast cycle from announcement to it coming out. So I wonder if they might do this again with this game, because that timetable, the January-February area, is very open, and I wonder if they might do the same thing where there's a reveal at E3 this year, and then it eventually comes out early next year, which would be interesting. We are going to have a hole with no really Souls games, because we've heard from that they're kind of taking a break with that, as we think that means from the Souls series, so we might get Bloodborne 2 or something.
We'll see.
Neo recently came out, which a lot of people are liking. It came out to really great critical success, but I think this game looks cool. It does strike me, we talked about this, as like a Souls game, but it also feels kind of like what people want Dragon Age to be, kind of. It's like, I don't know how RPG this is and how action oriented it is. I know it's touted as an action role playing game, but I don't know how action it is or how RPG it is, So it's gonna be interesting to see what exactly it is, but hopefully we see this at E3 this year. If it's coming out soon, I don't want another situation where it's the Final Fantasies and the Last Guardians, or it's a game we hear about for 10 years. So hopefully, yeah. Anyway,
just do it or don't do it. Either way.
Yeah, what do they say? Crap or get off the pot?
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
So the next story comes by way of Eurogamer. Tom Phillips writes here, Microsoft brings forward E3 2017 Xbox press conference. Microsoft will hold its annual E3 press conference a little earlier this year, on the Sunday before the show starts. Mark your calendar for 2017's E3 Xbox Showcase on Sunday, June 11th at 2 p.m. Pacific Time. E3 week has increasingly stretched out into Sunday in recent years. Bethesda has recently used the day to hold a press conference of its own, while other publishers have used it to showcase games to press, often embargoed until E3 begins proper. So, Larry Erb, everybody's favorite Xbox guy, tweeted out this information. I think this is interesting. Usually, Microsoft always goes before PlayStation. Now they're really going before PlayStation. I'm excited for this. I think a big problem Microsoft has, and this is just my personal opinion, is that they go, and then maybe even 4 hours after they go, PlayStation goes. So it's always, everyone ends that day thinking about what PlayStation did, right? No matter how good Xbox's things are, PlayStation always has the final word on Monday, just because of how they set out. I think them being on Sunday, even though they probably will be paired with Bethesda, and we'll get into that next story, Bethesda is huge and everything, but it's always, you talk about the Ubisofts, the Bethesdas, the EAs, and then it's the Microsoft, the PlayStation, the Nintendo, right? And I think that them being on Sunday and having their own day to themselves is huge for Microsoft. And I think it's a smart move considering they're launching a new console, whether it's an iteration or a brand new generation. I think this is huge, and I'm happy about this because I like the idea of watching the conferences Sunday, hearing Microsoft's message, being excited about that, having a whole day to gestate over that, and then being able to see Sony stuff, I think this is awesome for them to be a little bit more separated. Usually Nintendo goes on Tuesday as well, so hopefully every big boy, as I like to call them, has their own day. And I'm happy for this move. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious it has something to do with Scorpio, right?
Yeah.
So they want more time, or they just want to position themselves differently, because they have a new console they want to show off. Because looking back, Sony used a whole separate event to show off their new console, that PS4 Pro event. I think timing had a little bit more to do with that too. because they wanted to show it off, immediately before it was going to be released. Where Scorpio is different, presumably in that regard. But yeah, I think it's tough to say because I don't know the statistics around when most people watch these things and that kind of stuff, where more of the traffic is and how the time between each conference affects everything. I'm sure like a lot of numbers and calculations went into this decision. To me, that kind of thing is fascinating. So personally, I like it way better because it's easier for me to watch on a Sunday than it is on a weekday.
Yeah, and that's a big thing
my
too.
Own personal input.
Is PlayStation's conference is usually in the afternoon, so people, I think it usually starts like at 6
Yeah.
Eastern. So it's like people are already out of work and they can watch it, and then they have to go and watch the VOD for Microsoft conference if they're interested because it happens earlier in the day. But I'm happy for this because, like I said, I like each big boy to have their own day. I don't like it being butted there because on Monday, all you constantly hear is the moment the Microsoft conference ends, it's let's see how PlayStation responds, which is interesting and yada yada yada. But like,
it's not really a response though.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
But
that's how it's perceived. But
it's always shaped up as Microsoft did this. Now let's see what PlayStation does. Like right after the fact, like, and I know I own an Xbox and I might seem like an Xbox fanboy, whatever that is. But it's like I really always wanted there to be a little bit more time to be able to talk about, hey, this is cool that what Xbox did, but because the way the events shape up, it's like, okay, we have like 10 minutes to talk about Xbox, but we need to get to the pre-show for PlayStation now, the way media rolls out. So I'm excited that it has its own day now because now people can talk about Microsoft for a full day, they can talk about PlayStation for a full day, and then they can talk about Nintendo. And I think having all of them have their own breathing room is awesome. So I'm excited for that. But actually, to this announcement, Bethesda had a cheeky little... apparently, Bethesda actually had a nice little cheeky tweet to this, and they said, Sunday before E3 getting busy. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Basically throwing a nod at Xbox. Bethesda E3 showcase will still be on Sunday in the PM. Details soon. This is interesting to me, too, because... Bethesda's always had their conference on Sunday the last 2 years.
All two of them, though. Microsoft should have tweeted back, like, didn't you guys just start doing this? We've been doing this for years.
Yeah, but the thing, too, is, like, we've always talked about VR and Xbox, and Todd Howard's come out and talked about Fallout VR with Oculus and Xbox, and I think there might be something to Bethesda and Microsoft being on the same day. Maybe not a huge thing, but it might make sense for... Microsoft's conference to go first with Project Scorpio and stuff, talk about the VR, talk about maybe Fallout VR or whatever that is, and then Bethesda conference goes and you get maybe a little deeper dive. It would be weird if either Bethesda had to hold out that whole VR section from their show, or they do it first and then you hear about it at Xbox the following day, That'd be weird. So I think this might have some timing where the reason Xbox's conference is so early and it's on Sunday is because they go and then Bethesda goes. I think there's something to that. What do you think? Am I just reading into the tea leaves?
You might be onto something. Because previously I was thinking, well, Bethesda does tend to slightly lean towards Xbox, but not in any huge way. It's just they seem to, some of their games just don't run that well on PlayStation, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I can tell you one thing. Right now, assuming Halo 6 ends up coming to PC as well as Xbox, then I definitely won't ever, feel the need to buy an Xbox at any point, right?
Yeah.
But the one thing, the one game, one feature that could make me go out and buy an Xbox as soon as I am able would be Fallout in VR. That doesn't matter. I don't care about anything. I want that.
Yeah, that would be insane. It's weird to me that they would... The fact that they're both going the same day, Bethesda's going to be afterwards. We've heard all this stuff about VR and Oculus and Xbox. And from that messaging standpoint, it does make sense of like, well, Todd Howard would be put in the position of, well, do we talk about Fallout VR, but then they hear about it the next day at Scorpio, so we're talking about Scorpio before even Microsoft does?
Yeah. And
like, or do we not talk about it, but then they get a control of the messaging, which is cool because we like Microsoft, but we want to talk about it ourselves too because we're Bethesda. I think this... There's a reason for this, I think. And I might just be getting stir crazy and thinking of things that aren't there, but if it did happen, mark my words, I will have a hashtag saying I was correct. I'm just kidding.
I mean, I would be very surprised if nothing else, like something some sort of connection between the two. Like last year, Todd Howard was on. He wasn't on stage, but or was he? Maybe
he was in the Scorpio video. He wasn't on stage.
He was at least in the Scorpio video, right?
Yeah.
During Microsoft's conference, so I think there would be at least some bit of crossover in some way, and then hopefully it goes as far as you're predicting. That would be awesome.
That would be great. But nice little nod there at Bethesda. Like you said, it would have been funny if Xbox threw it back and be like, oh, yeah, we forgot you guys do E3 now, right? Something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Just to be funny. But
yeah.
I don't know.
So I think that's pretty much it for the news. We had a nice array of some Capcom news, some Microsoft news, some Bethesda news. Let's talk about this Legend of Zelda expansion pass, Dom.
A what? A season pass?
For a Nintendo game? The world is falling. The sky is falling.
Well, I mean, I'm not at that level of freaking out as some people seem to be. Those people are going to buy the game anyway, but in any effect, this isn't, a $50 Battlefield 1 season pass, like not in, in volume of content or in cost. This is, I guess we might as well just lay it out. This is a $20 season pass that includes 2 expansions. You cannot buy them separately. You have to pay for the $20 pack,
which is the weird thing. Why call it a season pass? Like, or it's like, I'll call it an expansion pass, but yeah, it's weird to me. That
and part of it is a good strategy because it forces you to come back to that game.
Yep.
Because you already bought it, so you have some monetary incentives to jump back into that game months later, and it gives them time to actually build the DLC, right? So the first DLC pack adds a hard mode, which I'm personally really excited for. That's probably how I'll play the game. And I'll go on record saying of course, I'm going to buy this season pass. I mean, I wish I didn't have to, but I do, if that makes sense. So the first expansion adds a hard mode and a Cave of Trials, which that piece of it I probably won't delve into too much. But that first expansion, though, it just seems light. It just seems that should have been a part of the game at launch, absolutely, like without a doubt. And then the second piece, which isn't supposed to come till later this year, I believe, includes a new dungeon and a new story. So like actual DLC, right? To me, that sounds like, especially given, how big Zelda dungeons usually are, that sounds like something that, deserves to be an expansion. And I can be down with that and paying extra for that. But the first expansion, as much as I want that hard mode, that shouldn't be an expansion pass. That's monetized to me. But of course, I'm still going to buy it. They know that. So it makes sense.
So I have 3 major issues with this. The first issue being that you can't buy them separately, and you're calling it an expansion pass, which is weird.
Yeah.
Like, if you just said, this is the DLC, there's 2 versions, there's one part of it coming out in the second part. The fact that they're calling it a pass, and it's 2 pieces of DLC, but you can't buy them separately, then it isn't 2 pieces. It's one piece that's released at one time and the other released at the other. I don't like that. Price point, fine. My second problem, a game should never have a difficulty setting as DLC. Ever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think that is awful management. That is not something that should be DLC ever in a game. You should never have people have to buy difficulty modes for your game. I think that's awful. And thirdly, I think the fact that with this, the other thing we forgot to mention is that when you buy this, you get a shirt for Link that has a Switch logo on it, which is really weird to me. I could see if this was a game where it had heavy multiplayer, like a multiplayer mode or something where cosmetic items were a part of it. It's like, oh, I have this unique cosmetic item. It's a Legend of Zelda game. That breaks RP to me, roleplay. Like, there's no reason Link would be wearing a Nintendo Switch shirt. It makes no sense to me.
Nonsense.
It doesn't make sense to me at all. It's a really weird, like, wink kind of thing to do. There's something else they could have totally done where it doesn't need to be so overt and like, you get a Switch logo shirt. Who cares? Why don't you give me a different outfit? What if it was like an outfit from one of the other games? Like an Ocarina of Time outfit, or like Wind Waker or something, or a nod to some game instead of it being a logo of your new console. That's really weird to me.
Yeah, no, I'm not against the idea of, a season pass or an expansion pass rather for a Zelda game at all. But this, they could have done so much better. Like, let's look back at Fallout 4. Their season pass, they actually ended up increasing the price of it from $30 to $50 after the game released, which you'd think is a huge blunder, but even at $50, I think it was worth it because it's done so much better than this is, right? Like where it's pretty much extends the game almost by double in playtime and new content, and it even added completely new gameplay functions in the game, right? Like the vault building and the robot building, like completely new mechanics that, yeah, maybe they had already had those built during development and they could have released it a part of the original game, but the original game was so big in itself already that, you know, it's easy to justify having that as DLC. So that to me is the example they should have looked at when they were figuring out what to do with their season pass, and because what they came up with, although it's cheap, is just kind of
well, the thing is Bethesda is a company who's done DLC and done DLC well. People love the Fallout New Vegas DLC. Fallout 3's DLC is some of the best ever made. They know how to handle DLC. Nintendo's never really done this. The thing, too, that really irks me and is a total businessy move, the reason they're packaged together and they're not sold separately is because they know people will not buy the Cave of Trials and Hard Mode DLC. Some people will buy it, but not the majority of people that are going to buy that second piece, which is the actual interesting part of this, which is the new dungeon and new original story. That's why people are going to buy this. That's why people will spend any money on this, is for that second part. And I think they know that, and that's why they're bundled together and you cannot buy them separately, because they have to include those both to justify the price, and they know that people won't buy the difficulty mode because there's tons of people who play games that are like, I'm not going to buy DLC that gives me a difficulty mode. You're making me buy for the game that should already been in the game. And I think that's a huge reason why you cannot buy these individually. And it's sad because the second part of this DLC seems awesome. Like a new original story, extra Legend of Zelda, for a game that's already seems like it's going to have a lot of hours dumped into it to complete, great. Adding in a difficulty mode and this weird like Cave of Trials throw-in thing that seems like a mini game. I'm not familiar with it. They say it's like Twilight Princess. I'm not familiar with it. But it's weird. The Switch logo t-shirt I think is 100% how do we justify them pre-ordering it or buying it as soon as possible? What else can we throw in for quote-unquote value? And they think that people are interested in a Switch logo shirt. Maybe a couple of people are. But you're telling me, Dom, if I told you could either have... You get one of these for sure. You can either get a Switch logo outfit for Link, or you get a Link...
The fire tunic, so that you can go into the volcano.
Yeah, there you go. Which one would you rather have?
I mean, it's just, it completely, like you said, it breaks the immersion in that world. Like, why would you ever put that on your character? It just doesn't make sense. It's not Mario Kart or something where it's, you know, it's already so ungrounded and there's things from different games and genre or different IPs. But that's where something like this kind of makes sense, but not in this.
That'd be like getting a piece of armor in Dark Souls 3, and obviously it's not an exclusive. That'd be like getting a piece of armor that has it says like PlayStation 4 Pro on it. You know, and you can wear that armor in the game. It doesn't make sense. It's really weird. And like I said, if this was like The Division or Ghost Recon Wildlands or these games, or even like For Honor, which would still kind of be weird RP because it's not current day, but like these games where like you can have cosmetics and it makes sense. Even like a Splatoon makes more sense than this. It's weird that you put this in Legend of Zelda, you know? You don't think of Legend of Zelda, you think of Link wearing like a Nintendo shirt. Makes absolutely no sense.
I don't understand it.
Yeah. But I think for me, I think the most exciting thing is the new original story. We talked about this a little bit. I think that's probably what you're super excited for. I know you'll enjoy most of it, but like that's the most exciting thing is like it's funny because this seems like to be the longest and most expansive Legend of Zelda, and it's the first one to get DLC. You know, you think about all the other ones where Zeldas are always meaty, but you always want more, and this one seems to be the biggest one and the most time consuming, and this is the one that's getting DLC, which is pretty funny. I think this is weird. I don't think this is like overtly bad, but I do think this is Nintendo's first foray into this kind of thing. It's obvious, as we just mentioned, the weirdness in this. So hopefully they learn from it. Like we said with even the mobile games, it's something new for Nintendo, and it's interesting that they're even trying it because old Nintendo would never do these kind of things.
Right, because they did it with the last Mario Kart and the last Super Smash Bros. And people seem to like how they did it there. I'm not too familiar, but
those weren't season passes, though, I don't think. They were DLC.
Right. This
is their first foray into buy this up front and we'll give you all this stuff to come. And, I'm interested to see where this goes. It makes you think about what their options are for season passes in the future, like you said, with the Mario Kart, stuff like that. A lot of people enjoyed all the content for Smash, but they didn't like that you had to pay, I'm pretty sure a lot of people would have been down with buying a season pass. You get all the characters that come out, right? But then that goes to the problem of Nintendo saying that, okay, for this price, you're getting 8 characters, meaning that there's not as much surprise there either. And I think a big thing with Nintendo and with Smash especially, or with Kart, their directs are huge because they're announcements you don't know about. So it kind of goes against what Nintendo stands for, right? Where you already know what's down the pipeline, so a lot of announcements aren't that huge anymore. So it's going to be interesting how they kind of meet in the middle on that. So, but I think you're down to get this. I think a lot of people are going to buy this for the second part of the DLC, not the first part. I would be interested to see how many people actually end up even using the Switch logo t-shirt, outside of just popping it on to see how weird it looks and then taking it off and never using it again.
If there's ever a metric we will never see, it's that.
Yeah, it's that.
Even if Nintendo does have that recorded somehow, we will never know.
And Nintendo is not very good at dropping prices on games. For some reason, they're not very good at that. So I'm going to be interested to see this holiday when it's, I think, the biggest, most important push for the Switch, not the release. It's going to be this holiday. I want to see what this price for this stands. Where do you get this bundled in at that point? Is it like the Game of the Year edition of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild? Is it $60? Is it $70? Is it $80? Like, what are they going to do with that? You know, is it always just going to be on its own? Is it never going to be packaged in with the retail copy? As in, like, it comes with this, and then you use the download code. I'm going to be interested to see how that all plays out. So,
I imagine that they have probably a Mario Kart bundle this holiday. I don't think they'll do a bundle with Zelda or Mario Odyssey, because they're not going to give up that profit, right? Because anyone who buys this, which is pretty much going to buy those games no matter what.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Yeah, especially Mario, which is insane that Mario was a pack-in for Nintendo 64. Which is crazy. Yeah. So I'm going to be interested to see how this plays out. Like I said, it could have been way worse. And for a company making their first stride into this, I think this was an interesting and admirable attempt. They still need to tweak it a bit because there were some weird things with it. But as long as they learn from it, I'm willing to hear them out on this. If they continue this and get really weird and doesn't make sense, then I'm going to be kind of hesitant towards this. But I'm willing to give Nintendo the benefit of the doubt, as many people have over the course of the last 2 console releases. So we'll see how it goes. Any closing words on this, Tom? I think we covered most of it. You're getting it, but you're not 100% happy about it.
Yeah.
So the next story here is actually kind of a pseudo follow-up to something we talked about, I think, like 3 weeks ago. It was the episode in which we talked about the Apocalypse Now Kickstarter. So when we were talking about this, the Banner Saga 3 Kickstarter launched, and that game received its funding of $300K within like the first 3 days, I think. Banner Saga is a very beloved game. People love that series. Excited to see them finish it. Apocalypse Now, a famous movie that not a lot of people know about nowadays. That was very psychedelic and weird, from Francis Ford Coppola. It was aiming to raise $900K. It ended with just 9 days left. It was only at $172,000. So nowhere near where it was aiming to go. And this story, I'm going to read you the story real quick by Vicky Blake over at IGN, and then we'll talk about it. The developer for Apocalypse Now has relocated the campaign to its own crowdfunding site after failing to secure funding via Kickstarter. To date, the Kickstarter drive, which describes the game as like Fallout New Vegas on acid in Vietnam, which is a pretty cool description, has secured just $172,000 of the $900K target, with just 9 days left to go. Real quick side, if I was them, I would say like Fallout 3 or Fallout 4, not New Vegas. I like New Vegas a lot, but you would probably do the ones that more people played. That's just my side note there. Unlike Kickstarter, there's no finite end date for the campaign on the new site, and backers will not be charged until the full amount has been raised. Pledges made to the original Kickstarter project can move their backing to the new platform, where every hardcore backer, in quotes, will receive a reward tier upgrade, essentially getting the rewards of the next tier up for no extra cost. The other thing to note here, the new campaign aims to achieve 5.9 million, so close to 6, and to date has raised 62,000. So they're doing even worse than their Kickstarter. I'm going to read you this last bit here. The Apocalypse Now website operates like any crowdfunding platform. You will not be charged unless we are successful in raising money. ApocalypseNow.com will be an engaging space where fans and backers can get the latest updates. The team will rely on this dialogue with the community to help them to create an Apocalypse Now game worthy of the motion picture in every way. According to a press release for the project, players will have the ability to make their own decisions independent of the original narrative. Game stuff, essentially, is the best way to put it. Apocalypse Now is being developed with a planned 2020 launch window. I smell BS, and I don't think this game is ever going to happen. We talked about this before we started recording. I think this is somebody trying to make a video game that doesn't understand video games. Francis Ford Coppola's, a beloved director and filmmaker, and people love his work. People love Apocalypse Now. I think this is him wanting to make a game and not understanding what it takes to make a game and the interest. I think he believes his property or the property of Apocalypse Now, I don't know if he owns any share in it, is bigger than it actually is. And I think, and this is all my opinion, I think that this was kind of like a slap to their ego, everyone involved with Apocalypse Now. Like, yeah, people don't really care about Apocalypse Now. Raising only $172,000 for when you ask for $900K and then leaving the site and then asking for $5.9 million, that's insane to me personally. I want to hear your take though, Don, because I can go on and on. So,
no, I think I agree with pretty much everything you just said. Death Stranding has a better chance of coming out next month than this Apocalypse Now game has of coming out ever. I don't think anyone would disagree with that.
Yeah.
You never know with Kojima, but anyway. No, I think you're right. I think this is the core problem is this, this guy doesn't know anything about video games, right? And maybe in a heartfelt and, true kind of way is trying to get into it and really wants people to play a fun game with his property, but is certainly overestimating the demand, I think. And then this move, it was one thing back when we first brought this up, and we were kind of like, it doesn't look like they're going to hit their inflated Kickstarter goals, and then now to just kind of ditch that and try to do their own thing, and it seems very Hollywood, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what else to say, but there's nothing good about this.
The weird thing too is the most successful Kickstarters are Kickstarters that are either backed by people who already have something that they've worked on. And this isn't saying like I brought in developers from A, B, and C game. It's all these developers from those came together and built this game, right? Or having a playable demo, or having actual gameplay, or I don't know, more tangible proof that you can get the job done. And I think the biggest problem with Apocalypse Now is that there wasn't even any gameplay shown for the Kickstarter. It's like, yeah, you've seen Apocalypse Now. We're going to make a video game about it. It's like
Fallout. A concept of something.
Yeah. Like, though obviously Banner Saga 3 has 2 other games to lend itself on, all over that Kickstarter are, here's what the game looks like, here's what it plays like, and it's one thing to say what your game's going to be and actually show it. The most successful Kickstarters are ones that already have prototypes. If you look at any of the ones that are successful, Hollow Knight, Shovel Knight, any of these, they have prototypes when they post it up, and they're like, this is what the actual gameplay looks like. People are like, oh, I can visualize that. I want to play more of what I'm seeing. And I think one of the biggest problems is people are like, I saw Apocalypse Now as a cool movie, but how does that translate to a video game? Because it's like a weird psychedelic movie. Okay, you told me it's like Fallout, but on acid in Vietnam. What does that look like? Like, I don't understand, because it could be something amazing. Like, people like to hate on Call of Duty, but those games are well made. It could be like a Call of Duty, or it could be like a B-tier shooter that no one really cares about. It's like, what am I investing in? And they asked for $900K, and they couldn't even hit 50% of that. And then they jumped their funding to $6 million? That's insane to me. It's already 2017. You figure they're probably, if they do end up hitting this, it won't be till next year at the earliest, if they even hit. They're currently at 60,000, meaning that they're going to make this game in 2 years. Well, then how long is it going to be?
And like, what's their track record of building games?
Yeah,
right?
He said, I brought people from all these places. Well, all those people you brought together, what have they made so far? Why isn't there a prototype? What have they made together? You can tell me, I brought in. It's like a, it's. How do I say? It's like an all-star game for sports. It's like, yeah, you can bring all these all-stars together, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to play well together. Unless we see them playing in a game together, we're not going to know that, right?
And on top of that, who knows that they're even all-stars? I mean,
exactly.
By developer standards, it's just because who wants that job, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That can't be a highly sought-after, highly demanded job for a game that isn't even funded.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if there's no work, then that you might attract some talent, but in my eyes right now, that's not exactly a
And the thing is, put your money where your mouth is. If you think these guys are superstars and talented, Francis Ford Coppola, you want to make an Apocalypse Now game? Front some of your own money so that way these guys can build a prototype that's badass so people can see on the Kickstarter and be like, oh, they are badass. You know, we don't know how good or bad the developers and the artists and the production people on this are, but he doesn't give us any confidence in that because they didn't show us anything. I think it's just a poorly mismanaged Kickstarter, man. Like, maybe the movie isn't as popular as they think, but the concept is really cool and people want Vietnam-esque shooters back again. They don't like the futuristic stuff as much because that's what we have like sci-fi games for. They don't want their military shooters to be futuristic. Like, this could work if they pitched it right, but it's like, it's kind of like they're taking all the shortcuts and they just relied on the name, you know, when there wasn't anything actually there. And go ahead.
They need a publisher, right? Like, to me, this is in no world a Kickstarter game. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, the reason, you know, publishers don't often grab games like Banner Saga isn't because of the lack of quality, right? It's just they're not going to make as much money off of it. It could be a great game, and it will make some money, but it's just not worth the investment. And they'd rather spend their time and money investing in other things, which that's what this needs to be. I can see why no publisher would pick it up, but I think that's what this guy should be aiming at, is getting a publisher to to back him instead of pulling all these stunts.
Here's the thing too, is on the opposite end of that, we can have the opposite argument too of a lot of times publishers go towards these Banner Saga-esque games and they want to publish the games, and independent studios are really proud that they do these games by themselves and they get the backing on their own, and a lot of them do make some good money and publishers get turned down quite a bit. And I wouldn't doubt if he took this to publishers and they're like, why should we have any faith in this? Like, why should we why should we publish this game?
Like, you want $1 million and you don't even have anything to show, like, why I would give you.
All you're saying is watch the movie. It's going to be like that. That doesn't make any sense.
The business sense is just, it's completely missing here. It just, it's so Hollywood to me. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's like a very famous Hollywood. It'd be like if Spielberg tried to make an indie movie, you know? And it's like, why aren't all... there was that famous Russian director that tried to get his new Rage movie funded on Kickstarter or something, and nobody funded it. And then he made a video on YouTube saying that people are babies and they don't fund art, they just fund all this garbage. It's like, don't get mad at the audience. You know, a free market allows you to know what people want and what people don't want. Don't get mad at people because they don't want your product. You either did a terrible job of marketing it, or people just don't like your product as much as you think they do, you know?
Oh, man.
And that's a huge slap to people's ego, and they can't deal with it. So Francis Ford Coppola is obviously like a famed director, but I really think that this is, and maybe it's not even him, maybe it's people around him, like, we haven't done anything with Apocalypse Now, we can't really make a sequel. People love video games. How about we use your property to make video games? And he's like, well, that sounds cool. People like video games. And it might be somebody else trying to steer him towards this, and he doesn't really know what's going on. He doesn't know video games, and he's trusting in them, and they're making this poorly. You know, it might not be his fault. So it would be cool to see this game funded because I want to see how it turns out. But the reality of that happening, I don't think is going to it's... In a world where Star Citizen made as much money as it did, and this is hurting to even reach 200K, that should show you right there, you know? Yeah. It's very weird to me. It's even, so like the site thing, we can go on this a little bit longer, them pulling it off and making their own site is weird to me too. They didn't go to Fig, which is like Kickstarter, but people could actually invest in your game, meaning that maybe they don't want people to invest in it because they don't want to share profit with them, which is kind of a bad thing too. Once I pulled it off of Kickstarter, for me, if I was running this game, I would then, after that point, I would then go to publishers, be like, we garnered some interest, you know, we didn't do maybe the Kickstarter as best as we could, but there was interest in this. We almost reached $200,000. What do you think about it? And pitch it to a bunch of publishers. Then if that didn't work, then I would do my own website. This seems like a very reactionary move, an ego-driven move of like, your site sucks, we're going to do this on our own. So... that's pretty much it. I talked forever about this. Any closing words on Apocalypse Now?
Apocalypse never.
Good. That's a very apt... that's a perfect headline for this, actually.
It just came to me. I don't know. Like,
Apocalypse right Never, the Kickstarter that didn't happen. That'd be a perfect headline. Yeah. Sorry to end the show on a somber note, but we're actually going to be talking about what we're going to be playing next week. I'm not too sure about what's on the slate. I've been staring at Witcher 3 and I want to play it, but
Right.
it's like I want to play it, but then I don't because I don't want to invest that much into it, you know? It's one of those things.
Have you played it before?
Yeah, I'm like 2.5
Okay.
hours in. Like I'm not pretty far in, don't get me wrong, but I'm in. Like, and then something else happened and I just didn't get around to finishing it or playing it. I love Witcher 3. I want to get back to playing it, and I know I'm going to restart from the beginning. And I don't know if I want to commit to that right now. I'm going to be playing more Fire Emblem Heroes, obviously. More Sniper Elite 4, I'm going to try to finish that up so I can get the review going. And The Force Unleashed is available, Games with Gold. I originally played it a long time ago. I never beat it, so I might hop back into that. I want to see how it holds up. Probably not too well. And Project Cars looks interesting. That's the other free game. I'm not a car guy by any means. I'm not a racing guy. But a lot of times I like to see those games because they're always... Most of the time, the car games are the prettiest games on consoles. That's why they're always launch titles. Because car games they're so beautiful. Like, I wish I was a car guy because I'd ooh and ah over them. And that's pretty much it. Also, at the beginning, I forgot to talk about, I caught up on Walking Dead. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. It is what it is. And that's pretty much it. I don't have anything else on the docket. I might try to catch the Lego Batman movie, even though I've never seen the original Lego movie, which is kind of a shame. Yeah, that's pretty much it. What about you?
Yeah, I've been curious of that Lego Batman movie too. It's definitely not something I'd see in theaters, but I might have to watch that someday. In my head, I just envision that, popping up on Netflix someday.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
where I'd get it.
Yeah.
But as far as what I'll be playing this week, Bloodborne. I have roughly 2.5 weeks or so. My math is shoddy at the moment until my Switch shows up. So I want to have that platinum down and just to be done with that game. I can just forever check it off the list and know that I completely conquered it. And then mobile-wise, I don't have anything else on the docket, I suppose.
You're in that middle space you always talked about where, like, you don't want to start something because Zelda's, like, right around the corner. So this is actually, I think, a good time to clean up trophies because you don't...
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't want to start anything new. So just go back to old games. Obviously, Bloodborne, that's your main focus. Other games you want to get trophies for. It's a good opportunity in this holding pattern.
Yeah, the other one that I talked about before, that if time allows, I do want to try to get that BioShock Infinite platinum because I'm very close already, actually. Essentially, the only thing tough I have to do is just finish the game on the hardest difficulty once, which will be tough, but, I mean, coming off the heels of Bloodborne, sure, it won't be too bad. And then find a couple of the last collectibles, So, I mean, that's well within range. I found it really only worked that way because I had played Infinite before. So this time around when I played it on PS4, I just, peeked at a trophy guide ahead of time just to see, the kind of path and the things you should try to do to most efficiently get the platinum, right? And that makes things so much easier, but then it does take a little. I don't ever like doing that on a first run.
Oh, no, never. No,
right?
No, that's horrible.
Right. So because I had already played Infinite years ago when it first came out, I was comfortable doing that, and it put me in a way better position to get the platinum. So I kind of see the reasoning. Like, trophy guides can do wonders, really. The
only thing I ever do that for, so I look at trophies for any game I buy just because I'm curious, and not trophies but achievements. And the good thing about the true achievements that I use is they always hide the story achievements. So even if they're not secret in like the actual like achievement thing for Xbox, they'll hide them themselves, right? Which I think is great. And the only achievements I look for are this or that kind of achievements. So it's like, especially like in an RPG, like Fallout, for instance, it's like, did you side with this or this? So that way I know whenever it comes to that point, I can make a separate save that I attend to later. So that way I'm at that point later, right? It's like for Fallout 4, before everything goes down with the railroad and all of them, I made a save, put it to the side, and then I played through the game, played through it normally, and then I was able to go back to that save and then do everything else. I definitely do not do any of the collectibles or any of that stuff because it takes you out of the experience. I'm like, oh wait, this collectible's here, this collectible's here. Yeah, and I naturally my first playthrough, I'm like that anyways, where I'm like, I like to look at the game and look around and be like, oh, what's over here? What's over here? I'm very like open to the world. I don't want to sit there and be like, I have to turn left here, turn right, door here, collectible, turn back. It's like, then why even play the game?
Yeah. No, and it's nice because you can go to, I think it's PlayStationTrophies.org, something along those lines. .com, probably more likely. Anyway, and just read the first 2 paragraphs of the trophy guide, and it'll tell you like it's going to take this many playthroughs minimum, and it'll kind of give you just like a base of the first time you play through the game, try to do this or only do this. Dishonored was a big one because if you didn't use a trophy guide, you'd probably have to do like 5 playthroughs to get that platinum, right?
Yeah.
But it could take as few as 2 if you do things just with a certain thing in mind as you're going through them. I don't want to get into specifics, but just having like a little bit of a foresight, you can end up saving a lot of time if you know one day you're going to want that trophy. But
yeah, exactly. There's a fine line to walk. That's a whole discussion for another day.
Yeah.
I hope you get that platinum because actually I'm gonna be playing Ni no Kuni still. I'm playing that game. That's really good. I forgot. I even forgot to mention at the top of the show I've been playing it. So it's definitely something I'm gonna be hopping back into because I love the aesthetic and the whole world, and it's like a Disney movie. Every time a parent dies at the beginning of something, I'm hooked. So spoilers for Ni no Kuni if you haven't played it. The mom dies at the beginning of the game. So yeah. I think that's everything for us that we're going to be playing. If you can, follow us at CTRLINT on Twitter. That's Controlled Interests abbreviated. Go to controlledinterests.com for all of our content. Go to youtube.com and just search Controlled Interests. Unfortunately, we don't have a custom URL yet. We're close. We're at 71 subscribers, inching ever so closely to 100 and getting a custom URL. YouTube growth is hard, but we're doing it slowly but surely. You can follow us. I'm at Jared_. Dom is at Dom's Oreos. And Jordan, who's not with us today, is at Mellow Modus. He'll be back next week, more than likely. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for listening to episode 47. Catch us in episode 48. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.